Hi, and welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video, we're going to learn the 1 to 5 player game, Citizens of the Spark, designed by Philip Dubarry and published by Thunderworks Games, who helped sponsor this video. You've heard the prophecies. One city will flourish, and the others will crumble, so you're going to need to gather the strongest allies and most brilliant minds. Your city won't save itself, so join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. To begin, I should explain that the game has 30 sets of what are known as citizen cards. Each set has a name and 10 matching cards with dividers to keep the sets separate. Depending on the number of people playing, you'll use a certain number of sets as shown here on screen and in the rulebook. In this video, we'll assume we have 3 players, so we'd use 8 sets. There's also a set of cards with this back, which are the randomizers, and each shows one of the 30 different citizen sets. So you can shuffle and then draw a number of them equal to the sets you need for your number of players to randomly determine which ones you'll play with. In this way, each game will provide a unique experience. Just be aware, some citizens have an underlined name, and you should not use more than 4 of those sets in a game. So redraw for any you gain beyond your first 4. Now, instead of using the randomizers, the game also suggests card set combinations on the back of the rulebook to suit the style of game you want to play. And for your first game, they recommend that you use this set, so that's what we'll pick for this video as well. Always include the citizens listed under the columns equal to or less than your player count. So in our 3-player game, we'd use all of these citizens. With your citizen sets collected, combine all of them into a single citizen deck, which you shuffle very thoroughly, and then put face down into the play area where everyone can reach it. And then each player should be dealt 4 cards from this deck. Examine your own cards, but keep them a secret from the other players. And then privately, pick 2 of them to keep. Now, why you might choose certain ones will make more sense after you know more of the rules, but for now, I'll choose these 2. Once everyone is ready, each person reveals their chosen cards, putting them face up in front of themselves into an area known as their city. Every different type of citizen you have within your city goes into what is known as its own stack. So if you happen to pick 2 matching cards, you would overlap them, ensuring that their names and icons are still visible here at the top. But for this example, we'll assume that I chose these 2 citizens. Everyone then puts their unchosen cards into a shared discard pile beside the citizen deck. For your very first game, when players may not know which cards they want to keep, you can instead just deal 2 cards face up directly into each player's city, and then draw 2 more cards for each player, again putting those extras directly into the discard pile. Either way, you will now create what is known as the assembly. In the center of the table, create 3 groups of face-up cards drawn from the deck. Each group will have a number of cards based on your player count as shown on screen and in the rulebook. So in our 3-player game, each group should have 2 cards, each within their own row. So here we have 1, 2, 3 groups. Then again, based on your player count, you may need to draw and discard some additional cards. In our case, 15. Next, you'll create a supply of these spark tokens and cubes, which represent 1, 5, 10, and 25 sparks each. Having the most sparks at the end of the game is how you'll win, and you can leave these stored in the included trays on the table. Finally, give each player one of these references, and the person who was born in the largest city takes this start player token. Or you can just pick someone randomly. And that's the setup. In Citizens of the Spark, you'll be collecting and playing citizens into your city. Citizens will have actions and/or abilities which will improve based on how many other matching citizens you already have in your city. You'll need to attract and play your citizens wisely to collect spark tokens and cubes, and the person with the most sparks by the end of the game will win. The game is played over a series of turns, beginning with the starting player and going clockwise around and around the table. And on your turn, you'll complete 3 phases, starting with attracting citizens. Here, the current player picks one of the 3 groups of cards to take from the area in the center of the table known as the assembly. We'll assume it's my turn and I choose this group. I then place these cards one at a time in the order of my choosing into my city, which again is the area in front of me where I keep the cards I've collected. If a card matches a citizen already in your city, add the new one on top of the existing ones, ensuring that the top portion of all lower cards can still be seen like this. If the citizen you're placing doesn't have another of its kind already in your city, then you place it alone to start its own stack. As we'll see, the citizens you add to your city will provide you with various effects which are printed at the bottom of their cards. We'll go through several of these throughout this video, but here is a type of citizen we don't have in our example deck that I want to highlight. It has an effect with a yellow colored background and this symbol, which means it is a when placed ability. Each time a citizen with one of these abilities is added to your city, you must resolve its when placed ability immediately after. We're not going to go over this specific effect right now, but by the time you're finished this video, you'll understand how to interpret the abilities of the cards you'll encounter in the game. And you'll also find a reminder of the various types of effects and symbols here on the back of your player aid. But with that, we've covered the first phase of your turn, attracting citizens, where you pick a group of cards from the assembly and add them to your city, resolving any when-placed abilities they may have. Then you move to the perform an action phase. Unlike the first phase, which you must resolve, this next phase is optional. You can choose not to perform it if you don't want to, but if you do, you may now resolve a single action. As I mentioned, cards have various effects at their bottom, and these will either be actions or abilities. This table, found on screen and in your rulebook, shows us that effects with a white or orange background are actions, while every other type of effect is an ability. So during this perform an action step, we may pick any one effect with a white or orange background to resolve. To do this, pick a stack with one or more citizens within your city, and then move the top card of that stack above your city. This citizen is still a part of your city, but moving it here makes it very clear which one you're resolving, and it is now referred to as your active citizen. You can even pick a stack with just one card to activate, but in this example, let's assume we made this scientist our active citizen. You now resolve any one action listed on it, but there's a twist. For many actions and abilities, the more copies of that citizen in your city, the stronger the effect. Almost every card in the game has what are known as 3 strength levels separated into 3 sections at the bottom. The section showing this symbol at the top represents the level 1 strength result. And when you see this symbol, it's the level 2 strength result. And this final section shows this symbol for the level 3 strength result. To resolve a level's effect, you must have at least that many copies of that citizen in your city, including the copy that you're activating. We have 2 copies of this scientist, so we may resolve either its level 1 or level 2 effect. If we had a third copy, we could resolve its level 1, 2, or 3 effect. You'll normally pick the highest level you can, as it's usually better. And you can have more than 3 copies of a citizen in your city, but the extras don't increase your level past 3. So let's see how this effect would resolve at a level 2 strength. When you see this icon showing a level symbol and a question mark, it represents your citizen's current strength. So in this case, with 2 copies of the scientist, when it says we need to gain something, the something it wants us to gain is what is showing in the second level section, which is here. Within that section, we see an icon, which is the symbol for sparks. So this means we gain 10 sparks. Anytime you gain sparks, take the related amount from the supply and put it in front of yourself. Again, these represent 1, 5, 10, and 25 sparks. And you can always make change with the supply as necessary. Also, if the supply would ever run out, just use a suitable replacement for any sparks you are owed. To finish resolving this effect on the scientist, we also see this symbol, which represents a citizen card. So here we are told to discard one citizen from our city. This means we pick any one citizen in our city, not including the active one, and send it to a shared discard pile. So maybe we'd pick this one. We could even pick a scientist, but we can never pick the active card we are resolving to discard or manipulate with an action. So if we did want to discard a scientist, it would need to be this one. And even though we'd be down to one scientist, that doesn't change the strength of this effect that we resolved during this current phase. The sparks that we gained for this level 2 strength effect were resolved first before we had to discard a citizen from our city. Now remember, during the perform an action phase, you can resolve a single white-backed action like we saw on the scientist, or a single attack action, which will have an orange background and this icon like we see on the bandit. This effect targets each opponent who has more of this icon in their city than you do. This is one of 5 types of guild icons, and there is also this special icon that can apply to any guild. When an effect refers to the guild icons a player has, it means the ones in the top right corner of every card in their city. If these were our citizens, then we'd have a total of 3 economic guild icons. So looking at this bandit's attack action again, we now know that this effect is telling us to take 3 sparks from each opponent whose city has more economic guilds than we do. If we had 2 bandits in our city, then its strength level would be 2, and we'd take 4 sparks from each of those opponents instead. Alright, this is a good time to talk about effects with a purple background and this icon, which are known as reaction abilities. These don't require an action to perform. Instead, when you are affected by another player's attack action, you first resolve all your reaction abilities, and then the effect of their attack happens to you afterwards. So, using that last example, if I was resolving this bandit action, it would allow me to take 3 spark from this player because they have more economic guild icons than I do. And because they're being targeted, all of their reaction effects resolve first. In this case, they gain 2 spark. Then my attack resolves and I take 3 spark from them. Just be aware, even though a player may have several cards within a stack, only the effects on the topmost one resolve. This player doesn't get 2 spark for each of these cards, only for the top one. This citizen isn't in the game that we've set up, but it has an effect with a gray background and this symbol, which means it's an ongoing ability. This is activated when its listed condition is met. In this case, before you perform an attack action, you would gain 3 spark from the supply. Before moving on, there is another symbol we should be aware of. Anytime you see a slash like this, it means for every. In other words, if we had 1 rancher, this effect means that we gain 1 spark for every 2 agriculture guild symbols in our city. But if we had 3 ranchers, we'd gain 2 sparks for each of our agriculture symbols. Finally, let me show you this effect, because in addition to gaining 3 spark when you resolve this action, you also place a certain number of cards from the deck. If this was a level 2 strength action, we'd place 2 cards. This means we draw 2 cards, one after the other, and place them into our city following all of the usual rules. And with that, we've covered enough examples to help you with many of the symbols and actions you'll encounter in the game. And remember, during the perform an action phase of your turn, you may perform a single action, either a regular white-backed action or an orange-backed attack action. And if you do, then after, as it says here, other players may follow the action. Starting to the left of the active player and going clockwise, any person with at least 1 copy of the citizen that was just activated may choose to move their top copy to the space above their city and pick an action on that citizen to perform based on their own strength level for that citizen. In this case, a level strength of 1. Then after, they discard the follower they activated, and the next player in clockwise order may follow if they can or wish to. After going around the table once to see if anyone can or wants to follow, you move to the final phase of your turn, cleanup. Here, the active player discards their activated citizen card if they performed an action during the second phase. Then you add 1 spark by each group of citizens in the assembly. A player collecting a group in the future takes any tokens beside it as well, and in this way, as rounds continue, a group may have several spark tokens, making it even more appealing to collect. Next, you reveal a number of new cards into the assembly based on the required group size for your player count until you have 3 groups of cards there again. Then the next player in clockwise order takes their turn, but do not move the first player token. This stays with the same person throughout the entire game. Speaking of which, turns will continue like this until the end of the game is triggered. This happens as soon as the deck runs out, either during an action or the cleanup phase, and in either case, you immediately shuffle the discard pile into a new face-down deck and continue drawing cards as necessary. You then continue taking turns until the person seated to the right of the start player has completed their turn. This way, everyone will have had an even number of turns. Then it's time for final scoring. Here, you total the spark cubes and tokens you've collected, and add to that a spark token for each citizen card in your city. You also add any spark tokens you gain from effects with a pink background and this icon, which represent end-of-game abilities. So with 2 advisors, this effect would earn me 12 more sparks. Once you've resolved your endgame effects and totaled all of your spark cubes and tokens, the player with the most wins. In the case of a tie, the tied player with the most cards in their city is the winner. And if there's still a tie, the tied players share the victory. And don't forget, there are many different combinations of cards and effects that you can use in each of your games. I'm showing a few of these on screen, and you can pause if you'd like to more closely examine some of the unique effects you might encounter when you play. Although we haven't gone through every card in this video, you've now learned the ones recommended for your first game. And if you come across any terms or ideas you're not familiar with on other sets you use, you'll find them described here in the glossary of the rulebook. This includes an effect that allows you to convert citizens. A converted citizen is flipped over and can be placed at the back of a stack to increase its strength level, but does not have any guild icons, cannot be activated to perform actions, cannot be converted back to its front side, and if a stack only has converted cards, then during the cleanup phase, it is discarded. And if you have any further questions about how converting citizens works, just check this section of the rules. The rules also have this section, which has notes on particular card sets and the unique situations that may come up when using them. And finally, the game also comes with rules and components for solo play, but those I'll leave for you to discover on your own. Otherwise, that's everything you need to know to play Citizens of the Spark. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like, subscribing, and clicking that little bell icon so you get notification anytime we post a new video. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can join our Patreon team, which I'll have linked below. But until next time, thanks for watching.